Ladies and gentlemen, what is up? Welcome back to another video on the channel today. So the draft is officially over. We had rounds 1 on Thursday night, rounds 2 and 3 on Friday night, and then we had the final 3 rounds on Saturday morning. Now that I have kind of a full vision of what every team was doing, what every team, what their plan was, I'm going to go through and I'm going to grade every team on how they did in this NFL draft. Now, draft grades are going to be dependent of 3 things. A, did you get good players? Duh. B, did you get good value? And C, did you address positions of need? Bonus points also if you made some good trades to give yourself more picks or maybe make a good move up for a player that was really good. But we're going to start right here with the Arizona Cardinals. The NFL has it all listed by team, which I really appreciate for the purposes of this video. But we're going to start with the Arizona Cardinals, starting with Marvin Harrison. That's obviously amazing. They didn't get cute. They took one of the best players in the draft at a position of need, so bonus points for that. I thought they reached a little bit with Darius Robinson, and I thought maybe they did reach a little bit with Max Milton. Although, him falling to the second round, some people's eyes was a good thing. Trey Benson, I think, was a good get in the third round. He was my running back 1 in this class. Again, then they kind of went interior offensive line. I'm not going to address every single player, but what the Cardinals did was they had a lot of picks. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 12. They had 11 to 12 picks. Maybe my math was wrong, and I think they used it effectively. They got some day 1 starters. Again, they probably reached a little bit on Darius Robinson, but I'm going to give the Cardinals an A overall. I thought they did a really good job. Starting with the Atlanta Falcons, you guys know how I feel about one of these moves. I thought Michael Penix was a reach, not only to take him at 8, but also because quarterback was not a need. I did not like that pick as one of my lowest graded picks in the first round. Then, you traded up to go up to pick 35, the third pick in the second round to get Roque or Horo. I did not like this move either, unfortunately. I thought that, Johnny Newton was probably a better defensive tackle, and I think you picked the wrong guy. I don't think that he, was going to go at 35, but, there was a run of defensive tackles kind of in that second round, so I guess if you really wanted to get your guy, I understand it. But I didn't love it. I didn't love it. Braylon Trice was pretty good. Brandon Dorals was pretty good. Again, you went really, D-line heavy after Michael Penix. I think Jace McClanahan is a pretty good get in the 6th round there. Overall, I'm going to give the Falcons a C. I don't think they managed their assets very well. I think they reached on a couple players early on. But I do think they got some fill-ins on defense, I guess you could say. Let's go to Baltimore Ravens, who, once again, you could just tell which GMs do their homework, which GMs are in their bag. Nate Wiggins at pick 30. Talk about just excellent value. That was one of the better picks of the first round. The Ravens aren't necessarily have a hole at corner, but it's a area they'd like to address sooner rather than later with Marlon Humphrey aging a little bit. I really liked Adisa Isaac in the 3rd round. I thought that was a great get for them. Again, you lost some players in free agency. You lost a Jadeveon Clowney. You want to refill that. Devontae Walker, a receiver in the 4th round, I really liked. Again, TJ Tampa, really good value later on in the draft. So this draft for the Ravens was all about value. I really liked it. I'm going to give it an A. Again, you don't have a lot of massive holes on this team, but you can use some depth at receiver. You can use some depth at corner, which is, I think, they did both of that. So congrats to the Ravens. Buffalo Bills. Now, I, in a vacuum, like the fact that they traded back twice to get much more picks because, again, this roster is pretty depleted after all the departed free agents. In a vacuum, I like it. When you do it with the Chiefs, it's a little bit different, unfortunately. So it's a little bit hard for me to say, but Keon Coleman being their first pick, I think I really, really like. I like his size and speed ratio, and mixed with Josh Allen, who's going to be able to get in the ball, I think it's a really good pairing. Now, is he the best separator you've ever seen? No, he is not. I don't think that matters quite a lot. Cole Bishop, I think, is a solid safety out of Utah. I don't know if I would have picked him in the 2nd round, to be honest with you. I think also Ray Davis in the 4th was probably a little bit early, especially considering that you have James Cook. I did like Sandrick Van Pranger, and then, look at some of the other guys, just depth offensive tackle pieces, depth corner pieces. Nothing too spectacular for the Bills here. I'm going to go ahead and give them a B. Going on to the Chicago Bears, who got really sexy in the beginning of this draft, but didn't have a lot of picks. They took Caleb Williams, easy A. I think Roma Dunze at pick 9 is an easy A as well. The Bears in round 3 took Kiran Imanjange. I'm going to be honest, I have no idea how to say that, but his tape is impressive at Yale. He dominated, and if you can get a, starting quality tackle in the 3rd round, you're doing a damn good job. And then they made a trade to get a couple extra picks because they really would have only had one other pick. They took Torrey Taylor, a punter out of Iowa. I don't love it. I'm going to be real. He's going to need to be all-pro level as a punter to justify a 4th-round pick because I just don't think punters really go. And then I do really like the pick of Austin Booker out of Kansas. Again, the Bears traded down to acquire those more picks. I'm going to give the Bears an A. I thought they killed it. Again, Caleb Williams was a fantastic player, but that was a layup in terms of, drafting. I thought that they didn't really work too hard, but they got great players and good value. For the Bengals, Amaris Mims at pick 18, I think is an interesting pick. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that it can be a really good thing. If he pans out, if he is what he can be, that would be a really damn good pick at 18. Chris Jenkins in the 2nd round. Again, like I said, we had that run of defensive tackles going in the 2nd round, and they got one of their guys in Chris Jenkins. So I don't mind that. Jermaine Burton out of Bama. I personally probably would not have picked him in the 3rd round, but I think he does fit much better in with the Bengals than he would a lot of teams, so I think the Bengals understood that. McKinley Jackson, is a comp pick. Eric Hall. I don't necessarily hate any of these picks. There was one other pick that I liked. Cedric Johnson. I do like that pick for the Bengals in the 6th round. I think that's pretty good value. So overall, I'm going to give the Bengals draft a B+. Didn't get too cute, got some quality players. But when you have the skill position talent that the Bengals do, you don't really need to be doing all that. For the Browns, I believe they were the last team to make a selection. I believe, pick 54 was the latest for a first team to pick. But they got Michael Hall, again, that run of defensive tackles in the 2nd round. They got their guy out of Ohio State, keeping him in the backyard. And another guy that's right there, Zach Zinter. Zach Zinter was one of my biggest sleepers in this draft. Broke his foot, I believe it was, against Ohio State. But I think he's really, really solid guard. Once his foot heals up, he'll be a high-impact player. And, the Browns, they've developed offensive line very well the last several years, so I think that's a good pick. Did not like Jamari Thrash in the 5th round, unfortunately. Miles Harden, Jawan Briggs. Again, I think this draft for the Browns is a B. It's hard to really grade them too highly or too harshly just given their lack of depth. If you want to take the grade into consideration with the Deshaun Watson deal and whatever, then you could say maybe it's a C or a D, but I'm just going to grade on what they did this past weekend, and to me that's a B. For the Denver Broncos, I really thought they overdrafted Bo Nix. I understand that he probably would have gone, in the 1st round. That doesn't mean he should have gone in the 1st round. When you get quarterback 6 in this draft and you take him at pick 12, that's always risky business. Jonah Ellis is a solid pick at pick 3. I did think that Troy Franklin was one of the better values in round 4. They traded up with my Seahawks. Do not like Audric Estime in the 5th round, unfortunately. I just think his build just does not match what a modern NFL running back is. And then, you got some other guys some flyers in the 7th round as well. I'm going to give the Broncos a C-. Didn't really like what they did too much. Didn't think they added a lot of high-impact players to a bad team. Let's just be real. They're a bad team. All right, so with the Detroit Lions, they waited on their heels and then traded up 5 spots with the Cowboys in the 1st round to get Terrion Arnold. A lot of people's cornerback won. It was the competition between Terrion Arnold and Quinyon Mitchell, who the Eagles took at 22. Then they doubled up on corners in the 2nd round, taking Enos Rackshaw Jr. A lot of people had this guy going, late 1st, early 2nd round. So in terms of value, I think that's really good. Addressed the position of need with both of their first 2 picks. I love that. Giovanni Manu, again, some offensive tackle depth. You can never go wrong. Sion Vaki, however you say it, did not like that pick. I thought there were better running backs available, unfortunately. Makai Wingo is fine. And then Christian Mahogany in the 6th round was a really, really good get. I really like that value. I'm going to give the Lions draft an A. I thought they killed it. I thought they knocked it out of the park. And they did a great job of improving on a team that was just a few plays away from going to the Super Bowl last year. Green Bay Packers, start with Jordan Morgan. I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It's kind of whatever. Let's see what he develops into. I'm gonna get. I'm gonna give that like kind of an incomplete grade, if you know what I'm saying. And then in the second round, they took Edgerrin Cooper. I really liked one of my top linebackers in the class, Javon Bullard. Also, a really, really good player, a guy from Georgia. They needed help at safety. I understand they signed Xavier McKinney, but you need two safeties. That's kind of how defense works, right? So whatever. Marshawn Lloyd, I thought it was a bit early just for their situation because they just signed Josh Jacobs, but I guess maybe they're looking to get an out in that contract, so whatever. Evan Williams, Jacob Monk, a lot of these guys. I thought a flyer on Michael Pratt was interesting, but again, it's a seventh rounder, so I'm not going to grade it too harshly. I thought the Packers did a B+. I thought they were pretty good in this draft. They got quality players. They didn't really overreach too much, except for maybe like a Jordan Morgan, but they didn't get too cute. For the Houston Texans, first pick in the second round was Kamari Lassiter, corner out of Georgia. Now, they, I think, needed corners pretty badly. Kamari Lassiter is a sleeper for a lot of people. A lot of people really like him, but he didn't run fast. I don't care. I don't care that he didn't run fast. He's a really good corner. Blake Fisher out of Notre Dame is a solid tackle. Obviously, he's the second best Notre Dame offensive tackle, but he's still really good. I thought Cade Stover, which was interesting there. I think they probably were banking on a Jatavian Sanders, and he went earlier, so they were probably shit out of luck. Jawar Jordan, it's kind of a whatever pick. Again, I didn't love this class. I didn't really hate it. I'm going to give it a B for the Texans. Again, I don't think they did anything catastrophic, but I also don't think they would like they were, Nick Caserio was out here just cooking up like some GMs were. Speaking of cooking up, though, the Indianapolis Colts, they broke the streak of offensive players selected in this draft. They took Latu, 15th overall. Which I thought was good. It's a solid pick. It's nothing spectacular, but it's a solid pick. But one pick that I really like in terms of value is Adonai Mitchell at pick 52. Now, there was a lot of character issues, and there was a lot of blah, 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 all this and that. I think that a lot of that was just overblown. And Chris Ballard, if you watched, he had a post-draft interview where he went the fuck off on that. So I agree with him. Matthew Goncalves, the offensive tackle from Pittsburgh, I thought was really good. There was a lot of these other guys are just depth pieces, depth safeties, depth corners, a depth defensive tackle. Did not hate it. I'm going to give it a B+. I thought they got good value with both of those first two guys. I mean, they had their pick of defender at pick 15, and then they got Adonai Mitchell all the way at 52, which I thought was really good. The Jacksonville Jaguars coming in. Now, they made a very smart trade with Minnesota to trade back about 6 spots and still probably get the guy that they wanted. I would guess that they were going to take Brian Thomas at 17 had they not traded back, so kudos to them. They still got their guy. It's a really good pick. Mason Smith in round 2. Not the biggest fan of Mason Smith, but again, I think teams were kind of getting desperate for defensive tackle because so many were just flying off the board. Jerry Jones, corner out of Florida State. They did need corner help, so I do agree with that. They took another defense. I didn't even notice this. They took another defensive tackle from LSU, Jordan Jefferson. That's kind of funny. Then they took kicker Cam Little. I think probably the only draftable kicker was probably Will Reichard in this draft. I'm going to give the Jaguars, I'm going to give them a B- because, again, I really liked the first 2 picks and the rest were kind of like whatever. Oakland Raiders here. I'll just be honest. I did not like the Brock Bowers pick. I did not like the fit for them after, just drafting Michael Mayer last year, not having stability at the quarterback position. To me, that's a situation where, like I was saying in my pre-draft videos, where, hey, Brock Bowers is going to be great, assuming he goes to the perfect situation. This is not the perfect situation. I kind of worry about Brock Bowers a little bit, but I loved the pick of Jackson Powers Johnson in the second round. He was one of my favorite guys. Honestly, was a guy that I wouldn't have been upset with the Seahawks taking at 16, let alone at pick 44. I thought that was excellent value. Tommy Eichenberg in the 5th round I thought was another really good pick. Overall, I'm going to give the Raiders a B. I think they redeemed themselves with Jackson Powers Johnson. But again, Brock Bowers to me was just not the guy to take there. No offense to Brock Bowers, and there's nothing against him. It was just the Raiders in general. Chargers I thought had a really good draft. You got Joe Alt 5th overall, which again, you get the best offensive tackle in a draft. That's never a bad pick. They got him at pick 5. Traded back up into the top end of the second round to land to land Ladd McConkey, who was one of the best, I think, possession receivers. Sneaky, athletic, first guy. I'm not doing that whole thing. Anyway, then they got Junior Colson in the third round. One of my favorite linebackers in this class, a Jim Harbaugh man at Michigan. I thought that was a great fit. They took Cam Hart. They took Brendan Rice in the 7th, which I'm not a huge fan of Brendan Rice, but I think in the 7th round, that is absolutely the time to take him. They got Cornelius Johnson. I'm going to give the Chargers draft an A. I think the new regime really cooked here. They got a lot of high-impact players for many years to come. And that's, I think, really how you can measure a draft. Like, you can say, did we land an Aaron Donald? Did we land a Patrick Mahomes? Those are all great. But a lot of times, you're just looking to land really quality pieces for your team, for the foreseeable future. For the Rams, super pissed off that they landed Jared Verse. I really wanted the Seahawks to get him, but whatever. And then they landed his teammate, Braden Fisk, in the 2nd round. Again, that run on defensive tackles, especially for the Rams, though, was important because of the departure of Aaron Donald. They kind of, I saw somebody on Twitter say that they filled their hole at Aaron Donald like Moneyball. Like, they got one guy that was strong, one guy that was fast. As long as they get on base, though, I think it's fine. Blake Corum in the 3rd, I did not like. I'm not a Blake Corum believer, unfortunately, and especially with how good Kyron Williams was last year. But in the 3rd round, Cam Kitchens I thought was a great pick. You could look down the board a little bit. Tyler Davis was a nice pick as well. Again, more defensive tackle depth for them. Bo Limmer in the 6th round. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to give the Rams an A. I thought they had some really nice picks, and I can't hate what they did. For the Denver Broncos, Chop Robinson to me was not a great pick. I think it was too high. If you wanted Chop Robinson, you probably could have traded back. Patrick Paul in the 2nd round. This is a guy that was like a borderline first rounder. I liked it. I'm going to give that pick really high marks. In the 4th round, they didn't have a 3rd. In the 4th round, they took Jalen Wright. I think Jalen Wright fits perfectly with Miami. He is super fast. I think he got really good cutting skills. He's going to be a guy that's going to fit really well into Miami's offense when he assumes the lead role. In round 5, Muhammad Kamara, more edge help. I get it. Malik Washington was a really, really sneaky good get at receiver in this draft. And then Taj Washington out of USC was also a sneaky good get for the Miami Dolphins. I thought I would give him a B. I would give him an A, but I'm going to give him a B+ because I really don't like the Chop Robinson pick. Kind of ruins part of the draft for me. But I'm still going to give it a B+ because I thought the rest of their draft, they kind of cooked a little bit. Minnesota Vikings here. Oh, I clicked the Dolphins again. Excuse me. Momentary pause. Minnesota Vikings. You started off the draft in a very notable way. You made the first. I believe they made the only 2 trades in the 1st round were the Minnesota Vikings trading up. Traded up from 11 to 10 to take J.J. McCarthy, which with the way the board unfolded, you kind of assumed that was going to happen. You guys know I don't love J.J. McCarthy. I'm going to give that pick like a B. But trading up to get Dallas Turner, again, I thought was really sweet. They were one of the teams that benefited from all those offensive players going within the first 14 picks. The Colts took a defensive player. The Seahawks took a defensive player. And then those 2 picks, were probably not who Minnesota was going to take. They trade up and get Dallas Turner. Good on them. Kyrie Jackson's pretty good as well. I did like Will Reichard. Like I said, I thought that he was one of the best kickers in this draft. Probably the only one I would have drafted. Michael Jurgens, I thought was good value in the 7th. I'm going to give the Vikings draft an A. If McCarthy hits, it's probably an A+, truthfully. But at this current moment, it's an A for the Vikings. I think that they did a good job. New Orleans Saints. Again, this is a team that was so devoid of talent at so many spots. You kind of just had to go best player available in a lot of situations, which I think they did. Talisi Fuaga, I thought was a really solid pick. Again, it was tempting to be sexy there and to take somebody, non-offensive lineman, but they did it, and I think that was the best thing for him. Excellent value in the 2nd round, taking Kool-Aid McKinstry, one of my top corners in the class, arguably my top corner. I love Kool-Aid McKinstry. I don't know why the general public and draft scouts don't like him as much. He's a stud. They got him in the 2nd, which is a really good pick. Then they got Spencer Rattler in the 5th. Now, they didn't pick in the 3rd or 4th round, which is kind of sucks. But again, I have to grade what they did this weekend. Spencer Rattler, his fall stopped at New Orleans. I think that is a really solid insurance option if Derek Carr sucks ass, which he very well could. Jalen Ford, why does it do that? I hate when it does that. Jalen Ford out of Texas was a solid pick again in the 5th round. Again, I'm gonna give them a B. Nothing too crazy, nothing too sexy. They just filled positions of need and got best player available. For the Giants, Malik Neighbors out of LSU with pick 6. I probably, you could argue go Roma Dunze, but I think that the thought to go receiver there was perfect. There were rumors they were going to take J.J. McCarthy. Would not have made a lot of sense for their team. They would have been in the same position with J.J. McCarthy, I think, as they are with Daniel Jones. Tyler Nubin in the second round, which is perfect. They lost Xavier McKinney in free agency to the Packers. They need to fill that spot a little bit. Oh, excuse me. I'm so bored with the Giants. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. Theo Johnson in the fourth is an interesting Darren Waller replacement. I won't lie. And then Tyrone Tracy, I thought maybe not the best pick, but whatever. I'm going to give the Giants a B minus. Again, nothing too crazy. They didn't kill me. But the Jets, I thought, actually did a really nice job. Olu Fashanu, pick 11, trading down with the Vikings. Malachi Corley, and pick 3. They didn't have a second because of the Aaron Rodgers deal. Round 4, they took Braylon Allen, which I think could pay big dividends in a few years. Jordan Davis. I didn't like the Jordan Davis pick. I'll be honest with you. Not the biggest fan of it, but I guess, they do have to invest in backup quarterbacks, so maybe I'm talking myself into it a little bit. But overall, I thought this draft was good. B+. I think you got some impact players. Malachi Corley is going to be a day 1 starter. Olu Fashanu, day 1 starter. Braylon Allen is going to be a really solid running back, too, and if you didn't have, what's the fucker's name? Breece Hall. Jeez Louise, I couldn't think of his name. If you didn't have Breece Hall, he would also be a day 1 starter. So can't hate it for the Jets. For the Eagles, I mean, you guys already know the fucking Eagles. They always kill the draft. It's so annoying. Quinyon Mitchell, corner out of Toledo. What's so interesting is they waited, and I thought personally they were going to trade up with Seattle. They were going to trade up with, whoever, Miami, whatever. It's one spot, but you know what I mean. I thought they were going to trade up to try to get their corner. They didn't. They actually ended up taking the first corner in the class at pick 22. So Howie continued to just work his black magic. You got to love it. And then at pick 40, they got another corner that was supposed to go in the first round, Cooper DeJean. Don't put him at safety. He's our white cornerback. Anyway, Jalen Hux is pretty solid in the third round. Will Shipley in the fourth. If you want Walmart Christian McCaffrey on sale, that's probably what Will Shipley is. He'll catch some passes. And again, is that the sexiest move ever? No, but DeAndre Swift left, and he was a pass catcher. Saquon Barkley can do that as well, but obviously it doesn't hurt to have more. Johnny Wilson in the sixth is very interesting, truthfully. I got to give the Eagles an A. They waited. They got great players. They took positions of need. Not much else you can do, man. Not much else you could do. I think that was just super solid. The Steelers, I thought, also had a really good draft. Troy Fautanu, pick 20 overall. I thought he was going to maybe, be taken by that point, but he went. Zach Frazier, then a center in the second round. Again, their clear vision is they're going to beef up that interior of the offensive line. They want to run through a motherfucking face, if you know what I mean. Roman Wilson in the third, didn't love it. I'm not a huge fan of Roman Wilson, but I thought later in the third round, they redeemed themselves by taking Peyton Wilson, who had been sliding for some reason, probably due to medical stuff. Don't get me wrong. Mason McCormick is, again, another guard. Logan Lee at D tackle and Ryan Watts at corner. I got to give the Steelers an A. I thought they killed this draft. They got a lot of really good players. They got a lot of positions of need. I can't be mad at it at all. For the 49ers, though, it's a little bit interesting because Ricky Pearsall was one of the shocking picks of the first round. I don't love it, truthfully. Renardo Green, a corner out of Florida State. I didn't necessarily love that either. Again, I understand they need corner. Maybe they overdrafted him a little bit. Dominic Pooney, you can't complain. Isaac Guriendo and Malik Mustafa. I think the 49ers over the last few years, like 5-6 years, have made their bread and butter with these like mid-round picks. Fred Warner, George Kittle, all of those guys, right? Malik Mustafa and Isaac Guriendo have a chance to be this draft class's version of that. I love Malik Mustafa. In the pre-draft process, I thought he was a great fit for my Seahawks. Apparently fucking not. Jacob Cowing, Tatum, Buthan, whatever the name is. I got to give the Niners a B+. Again, I thought those mid-round picks really redeemed some of those early question marks. But now going to my Seattle Seahawks, my initial reaction to Byron Murphy was not pleasant. I will not lie. But the more I think about it, the more I actually really like it. Again, Mike McDonald is going to beef up that interior of the defensive line. I think the Seahawks are not going to be pushed around anymore, which I love. Christian Haynes was an excellent value at pick 81. That is an A pick if I've ever seen one. Fill the position of need. excellent value, great player. I think because he went to University of Connecticut, people really kind of disregard what he was doing there. He was dominant. He started like 50-something games at right guard, which is exactly where the Seahawks are going to play him. Awesome. In the 4th round, they took Tyrese Knight. Don't love Tyrese Knight. I really would have loved if Peyton Wilson slid about another 15, 20 picks. That would have been super cool. But again, filling a position of need, I can't. Dude, why does it do this? I hate that so much. Filling a position of need, can't hate it. A.J. Barner was my first, what the fuck are they doing pick? Because he's kind of like a blocking tight end, special teams guy in the 4th round when you don't have a lot of picks. It's interesting. Nehemiah Pritchett, corner out of Auburn. They took 2 corners out of Auburn, actually, and DJ James as well. Satoa Limiana. I'll learn how to say his name eventually. I apologize. Guard out of Utah. Again, depth, defensive pieces, starting guard, potential starting guard, potential interesting project. I like their draft. I'm going to give it a B+. Nothing sexy. Nothing that absolutely had me shitting my pants like Pete Carroll used to do, taking fucking LJ Collier in the 1st round. I still have not forgiven you for that, Pete. Hey, let's talk about the Buccaneers. Graham Barton was a great pick. Again, not a sexy pick, not a pick that, you're going to go and watch the highlights of. Graham Barton is just a solid dude, especially after the retirement of Ryan Jensen. Chris Braswell, I think, went right where he was supposed to at pick 57. Tyke Smith out of Georgia was an excellent pick. I can't talk right now. What's going on? Jalen McMillan, a wide receiver out of Washington, was a nice pick at pick 92. Bucky Irving was interesting in the 4th round. Probably would have taken him a bit lower, but I don't hate it. Overall, I think the Buccaneers had a B+ draft. I think they addressed some position of needs, got good players, but it wasn't very sexy, and that's okay. Now, Titans. I'm going to be a little bit mean for the Titans. Did not like the J.C. Latham pick. I thought Olu Fashanu has a higher upside at pick 7. If you wanted J.C. Latham, you probably could have traded down. Devondre Sweat, to me, that's kind of risky to take Devondre Sweat at pick 38 after he just got a DUI in the pre-draft process. I thought he was going to slide at least a couple of rounds. He did not. He, went right at the top of the 2nd round. Titans seemed to have no issue with his character concerns, which... Sure. I did like Cedric Gray, though. I thought that was a good pick out of North Carolina. Again, they didn't have a 3rd-round pick. They kind of had to sit on their hands for a little while. Jaquan Jackson out of Tulane is a sneaky, underrated guy. James Williams is also a sneaky, underrated safety out of Miami. Him and Cam Kitchens were a lethal duo. I am going to give the Titans a B. Again, I think they redeemed themselves with a lot of late-round picks, but early in the draft, I did not like it. Washington Commanders. Did not like the pick of Jane Daniels. Thought they should have went Drake May, but that's not, the most egregious offense. They got really good value with Jerzon Newton, pick 36 in this draft. He was the 3rd defensive tackle taken. I argued he should have been the 1st, maybe. I really like Ben Sinnott in the 2nd round as well. Maybe overdrafted a little bit, but again, you need weapons for your new quarterback. I'm not going to really complain too much. Luke McCaffrey later on in the draft. Maybe a little high. Don't hate it. Javonte Jean Baptiste in the 7th is nice as well. I'm gonna give the Commanders a B. They I think took the wrong quarterback. They probably could have taken some other guys, in the 2nd round. But overall, I thought they did a good job. Let me know what you think about each team's draft class in the comments down below. I'm very interested to hear your opinion. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Peace out.